today's lesson, I'm going to be showing you an exercise that is going to instantaneously improve your guitar playing. All right, so we're actually going to be doing an exercise that is going to work on our accenting in our guitar solos. And this exercise is actually something that I adapted from a fantastic drum book. It's called Progressive Steps to Syncopation for the Modern Drummer by Ted Reed. And this is just a couple of pages from that book. And I highly encourage you, if you're interested in just working on your rhythm in general, to go check that book out. I'll have it linked below after this. Essentially, what we have here is several different measures of just a giant chain of eighth notes, okay? But now, if you look very carefully, on top of some of those eighth notes, if you see this little triangle, sideways triangle looking thing, or sideways V looking thing, that is an accent marking. And essentially, an accent marking just means we play that note louder than we play the other notes. So, for example, if we look at the first measure there, we have a whole chain of eighth notes. So we count those eighth notes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 in, okay? And we have an accent mark right on beat 1. And then we have an accent mark, so 1 and 2 and then on beat 3. Okay, so beat 1 and beat 3 each have an accent on them. Let's go ahead and just play measure number 1 with the accent on beat 1 and beat 3. So it's going to sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So, as you can see, that's pretty simple, right? That most of you are probably going to be used to that. So, what we want to do is I want to go through each one of these different examples and work on them. There's going to be all kinds of different combinations of moving where the accent's going to be within that measure. So, I don't want this video to be ridiculously long, so I'm not going to go ahead and play every single one of them for you right now, but we're going to go through several different examples, and then I will have a way for you to access the PDF down below after this. So that being said, let's check out measure number 2. So if we look at number 2, we'll see that we have an accent now. Instead of beat 1, we have an accent on beat 2. And then we also have an accent on beat 4. And by the way, before we continue, if you're asking, what is the point of doing this? The point, more than anything, is twofold. Number 1, I want you to get into the mindset of being able to have control and change the accents of the notes that you're playing when you're soloing. Because you're going to see, we're going to actually not just play it with one note later. Once we get used to playing it with one note, we're going to improvise different notes. We'll pick a key, and then we will just play a random chain of eighth notes, but we got to hold that accenting structure. And you'll see that this is such an incredibly powerful tool for us to be able to actually play the same notes in the same rhythms, but actually make them sound different. And this can be a gigantic game changer in your soloing ability, and it can just make your playing sound way more interesting, okay? So let's go ahead and check out measure 2. So you got an accent on beat 2, and then you also have an accent on beat 4, okay? So let's see what that sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, so far all of the examples that we've checked out are going to be different combinations of downbeats. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and, right? So all those downbeats. And you'll notice if you check out the picking pattern there, all of the accents so far have lined up with downstrokes, right? So let's skip ahead a little bit to number 10. So once we get to number 10, these examples are going to be different accents with upbeats on them. So let's analyze measure number 10 really quick here. And again, by the way, later on when you get more comfortable with these, you can try just playing it straight through. Measure 1 and measure 2, measure 3. That's a really, really good thing. It's also, by the way, going to work on your reading a little bit. But so number 10 is going to have an accent on, let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit here. So number 10 is going to have an accent on the and of 1, and it's going to have an accent on the and of 3. Okay, so very, very simple. So it's going to sound like this. Let's throw in a metronome here. Remember, 90 beats per minute. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, so let's do another couple of them. Let's check out number 12 here. Number 12, this is a nice example. So here we have the and of 1, and then we have the and of 2. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So those two upbeats consecutively, we're going to accent those. Let's check that one out. And can you even switch notes? So that'd be just a very basic form of note switching, right? It's like every time we play the measure, switch to one note. We're not switching every single note, but it's like we're playing a whole entire measure with one note, changing notes to another measure. It could even be random notes. You don't even have to stick to a key, especially when you're playing with a metronome. I think that this is a fantastic way to practice. So with that being said, let's go ahead and do one more upbeat combination. Let's try number 16 here. So number 16 is cool. So this one has 3 different upbeats in it. So we have the and of 2, the and of 3, and the and of 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you might find, even at this tempo, this is kind of challenging. There's another issue, by the way, that this exercise will fix, which is the issue of you picking too loud as your baseline volume. I noticed that a lot of people, they pick too loud just by default. So you have to pick the non-accented notes quieter, which leaves you headroom to be able to accent the notes and make those louder. So finally, once we get past number 18, now we finally have some combinations of upbeats and downbeats that are accented. So we'll do a couple of those, then there's going to be one final exercise, and then we're going to do some of these with multiple notes and sort of actually baking it into an improv context, because I strongly believe in any exercise that we do, yes, it's good to practice the repetitive nature of just a pre-planned out exercise, but then we have to actually directly inject it into an improvisational context in order to be able to get the most benefit out of it. So let's go ahead and check out number 18. So number 18 has an accent on the downbeat of 1 and the upbeat of 1. So 1 and 2 and then 3 and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So let's see what that sounds like on the guitar with the metronome. Okay, so there we go. That's another accenting pattern. Let's do one more here. So this one is going to be a little bit trickier. Let's check out number 22 here. So number 22, we have the and of 1, and then we have the downbeat of 3 right there. Okay. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So let's see what that sounds like with the metronome. So as you can see, this is really, really cool. We're going through all these different combinations of accenting 1 note in a measure, accenting 2 notes in a measure, accenting 3 notes, accenting all upbeats, accenting combinations of upbeats and downbeats. And there's definitely more combinations that you could also make as well, besides the ones that are listed here. Now, let's go ahead and check out the last sort of exercise here. This is probably going to take some practice for some of you, okay, including me. But this is going to be an exercise that we're going to read down, and it's 8 measures long, and it's just a combination of all of the different sort of, we could call them cells that popped up before. I have another exercise. It's called the ultimate rhythm exercise with rhythm cells, where you're actually playing different rhythms. So these are kind of like cells too. They're more like accenting cells. Let's go ahead and play through this, and let's see if I can get through it without messing it up. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there you go. Notice how it's unpredictable now when you're combining all of these different accenting patterns in one measure. Now you can't even predict, even though I'm literally playing the same rhythm, same notes over and over and over again, it makes the feel of the thing feel unpredictable. And that is one of the major benefits that this is going to give us in our guitar soloing. Is going to make it less predictable. It's going to make the way that we play the same stuff that we already know less predictable. So now, with that being said, we're going to throw on a basic backing track, and we're going to just pick a couple of these, because this is where I want you all to get to. This is just a preliminary learning of the accenting patterns, okay? And one thing you can do also is speed these up. They get a lot more difficult actually as you get faster, because especially those ones where there's 2 accents right next to each other, it's very hard to get out of the accent. Like if I take a look at one of these here, which one is it? Right here, number 18, which we did earlier. It's really difficult to accent these 2 notes and then not accent B2. It's definitely a challenge, especially the faster that we get, okay? So let's go ahead and pick one, and I'm going to put on a backing track. And now I'm going to start with just playing 1 note over the track, and then I'm going to improvise a random just chain of notes. But the only rule, even if I hit wrong notes, even if I playing something that's boring, that's okay. All I want to do right now is I want to focus on keeping my mind on the accent that we are presented with. So let's go ahead and actually, let's pick one of these more interesting ones that has a combination of downbeats and upbeats. Let's pick number 26. So this one has a downbeat accent on 1, the upbeat of 2, and then the downbeat of 4. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So there's just 1 note, and now I'm going to improvise a chain of notes, okay? Let's see how successful I am at this. The whole point of this, though, is not to say, like, when I'm soloing, I want to use this accenting pattern. I want to use this accenting pattern. This is a really, really challenging exercise that should just be making you think a lot, right? And if I'm being honest, I wasn't, playing some kind of amazing solo or anything there. I was being very, very, very scalar because all I was just doing is focusing my mind only on getting that accent. I was just kind of on autopilot with all the other stuff. And that's the whole entire point of this, is that when you work on this enough, then when we go and say, all right, all I'm going to do is think about playing a solo, I'm going to have more interesting accents. And also on top of that, by the way, of course, we don't want to be playing a nonstop chain of notes all the time when we're playing a solo, right? We want to play with good phrasing, and we want to, use all these other different musical elements, different rhythms, right? The whole point of this is to get us in the mindset, again, of playing with good accents. So if you want to learn how to master the guitar fretboard so that you can take all of your new knowledge of accenting in guitar solos and make sure that you're applying all of the different notes and triads in any different key that you want to, so that you can solo over any backing track that's in any key or any song that's in any key, then make sure you head on over to Jamsville.com and check out the Jamsville GPS Fretboard Fundamentals course, where you will find all of the information that you need to learn in order to be able to fluently navigate the guitar fretboard in any key. Also, make sure you check out my new song that I released recently. It's called My Divine. The link is in the description below. Also, if you want the PDF of this exercise, make sure you check the link in the description below so that you can go ahead and get your copy. Also, make sure you check out my favorite guitar picks. They're called the Dan's Guitar Store Precision Pick. They have the absolute best grip that I've ever felt in any pick in my life. And on top of that, they have the best picking edge that I've ever used in any guitar pick. It has this really, really cool beveled edge, and it cuts through the strings of the guitar like a knife through butter. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and until next time, listen, learn, and jam.